Welcome to the official podcast of Vienna Shadows, a secret society uncovering Vienna's hidden mysteries. Lean back and enjoy the show.
You know, usually when you decide to renovate a really old house, you kind of have this expectation of discovering some charming history.
Yeah, like peeling back a layer of cheap 1970s wallpaper and hoping to find, I don't know, beautiful Victorian stenciling underneath.
Right, exactly. It's this nice linear progression of time. It feels safe.
But imagine peeling back that floral wallpaper and finding out the wall underneath isn't plaster at all.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it's breathing. It's some kind of ancient organic membrane. And this horrifying realization washes over you that the only reason the house hasn't completely collapsed is because that flimsy, ugly wallpaper was acting as a magical seal.
And suddenly your weekend remodeling project just doomed the entire neighborhood.
Pretty much.
That is like the absolute definition of a structural and metaphysical nightmare. And honestly, welcome to the deep dive. We have a massive stack of source books, GM guides, and lore manuals in front of us today.
A truly towering pile of paper.
It is. And our mission today is to distill all of this into a usable, terrifying philosophy for you to bring to your tabletop. Today, we are arming game masters with a comprehensive guide to hosting the tabletop role-playing game, Vienna Shadows.
And the house metaphor we just talked about, that is exactly the world your players are walking into.
It clearly is.
It's just a brilliant subversion of the typical setting. I mean, we aren't just looking at a standard 1920s noir or pulp adventure here.
Right, it's not just flappers and jazz.
Not at all. The high-minded cafe society sophistication of 1920s Vienna is just a fragile mask. It is literally that thin layer of wallpaper hiding ancient cosmic horrors from the Frühe Neuzeit, the early modern period of history.
Okay, let's unpack this central conflict.
Yeah.
Because it completely flips the script on how we usually view history, especially the Enlightenment.
Oh, definitely.
Because in the real world, we are taught to view the Aufklärung, that era of rationalist reform, as humanity stepping out of the darkness and into the light of reason. But the lore in these books suggests something wildly different. In the universe of Vienna Shadows, the Enlightenment failed spectacularly.
It backfired in the worst possible way. The rationalist thinkers, they tried to banish the monsters with logic, but instead of destroying the entities, the era of reason actually dismantled humanity's traditional functional defense mechanisms.
Wait, so how exactly did humanity lose those defenses?
To understand that, you have to look at Emperor Joseph II in the late 18th century. His authorities went on an absolute crusade to eradicate what they called peasant superstition.
Oh, right, getting rid of the old myths.
Exactly. They aggressively outlawed witch trials, they shuttered the ancient monasteries, and in the glittering intellectual salons of the Innenstadt, the inner city, they made it fashionable to openly mock folklore.
So they thought they were cleaning house,
Yeah.
just modernizing the empire.
But the source material provides this brilliant twist called the shadow truth. The Enlightenment wasn't just secular progress. It was a desperate, highly coordinated, and ultimately flawed attempt by early authorities to starve the old ones by denying their existence.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. The underlying theory was that if you stop believing in these cosmic horrors, you sever their psychic tethers to our reality.
Which is a fascinating but completely catastrophic miscalculation.
Oh, absolutely. Because the authorities outlawed the old myths, they inherently suppressed the ancient ritual.
The literal exorcisms and cosmic bindings.
Yes, the very things that were actively keeping these entities contained.
It's like deleting your computer's antivirus software because you've decided you simply don't believe in hackers anymore.
That is exactly what it is.
You haven't made those massive linebackers disappear. You've just guaranteed that you don't see them coming when they tackle you in the dark.
Right. By turning off the spiritual alarms, they opened all the metaphysical doors.
So how does this affect the NPCs and players in the 1920s?
Well, this historical vulnerability manifests on the streets as a modern blind spot. By the roaring 20s, the intellectual elite of Vienna are highly trained in empirical science and Freudian psychoanalysis.
Okay.
So when they see shadows moving in ways that defy physics, or they hear guttural whispers in an empty room, their brains literally refuse to process it as a supernatural threat.
They write it off as a psychological delusion. They call it a neurosis, a trick of the light, or, a manifestation of repressed trauma.
They rationalize it away, which of course makes them the perfect prey. The old demons from the Baroque era didn't pack up and leave. They just adapted to the 20th century industrial grime.
They're hiding perfectly within the blind spot of human rationality. Now, if the minds of the citizens have been completely altered to ignore this threat, the physical geography of the city itself must reflect this hidden war, right?
It absolutely does, and the physical geography is deeply scarred by it. Take the brutal Turkish sieges of Vienna in 1529 and 1683.
Which were massive military conflicts in the history books.
Right. But in Vienna Shadows, those sieges left permanent metaphysical wounds on the city. The old city walls weren't just built thick to stop cannonballs. The architects constructed them using non-Euclidean angles to act as spiritual barriers.
Spiritual barriers against what?
Against void, corrupted entities pouring in from the eastern steppes.
But wait, those walls aren't there in the 1920s? Anyone who knows the map of Vienna knows they tore down those barricades in the mid-19th century to build the Ringstrasse, that grand, beautiful, circular boulevard.
Exactly. They basically bulldozed their only cosmic shield to build a scenic road.
Wow. Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Let's zero in on a specific real-world location from the sources that GMs can use. The Plague Column or the Pest Soul right there on the Graben.
Oh, yes. Historically, it's this incredibly ornate, beautiful Baroque monument built to thank God for the end of the 1679 Black Death.
But in the game's mythos fusion, the 1679 Black Death wasn't caused by fleas on rats. It was actually a localized manifestation of something called the unbound flesh,
Which the lore describes as a parasitic rot originating from Shub-Niggurath.
So that magnificent plague column isn't just a statue.
No, the column is a highly complex cosmic dampener. If a player looks closely, they'll find it is carved head to toe with hidden alchemical ciphers designed specifically to pin that anomaly down beneath the cobblestones.
And what's fantastic for a game master is how this ancient tech interacts with the 1920s setting. Just think about what modern infrastructure requires. You have laborers digging new subway lines, laying electrical cables, installing plumbing.
Right. All that modern digging is disturbing the surrounding soil.
Which causes the ancient dampening field to fluctuate. That is such a visceral, horrifying image for a campaign.
It really is.
You can have players walking past this gleaming marble monument in their tailored suits, while 30 feet away in a trench, a crew of modern laborers is quietly turning into ash because the dampening field slipped.
And the alchemists who built these dampeners back in the day, under Emperor Rudolph II, they weren't just brewing potions.
Right. The imperial court was a sanctuary for high-level mystics.
The guide explains they weren't trying to turn lead into gold. They were doing high-level cosmic calculus. They were formulating what the game calls the Josephine formulas.
Josephine formulas.
Yeah, these massive, intricate mathematical equations meant to map and stabilize the spatial gravity sinks opening up beneath the city.
So these formulas are essentially the blueprints to the city's magical foundation. And if those blueprints are scattered across modern Vienna, it raises the question of who is looking for them.
Which perfectly transitions us into the factions that game masters will use to populate their campaigns.
And what I love here is how the ancient secret societies didn't just disappear, they evolved.
They just put on modern suits. Take the Black Robes, for instance. In the early modern period, they were doomsday sects born in the horrifying plague pits of 1679.
And today?
In the 1920s, they operate as anarchists. They use modern social unrest, labor strikes, and political chaos as a cover to perform rituals that literally dissolve reality.
They weaponize the chaos of the Roaring Twenties. And on the flip side of that coin, you have the Golden Robes.
Right. Historically, these were the power brokers, the imperial court, the Inquisition, the ones who used the divine right of kings to suppress the occult.
So how did they adapt?
What's fascinating here is how they swapped out of divine right for psychoanalysis. They now use the modern psychological establishment, asylums, and institutional leverage to control and weaponize humanity's repressed desires.
That is so dark. Think about how a game master can use this at the table. Your players witness a flesh beast in an alley, they go to the authorities. A golden robe doctor sits them down, nods sympathetically, tells them the monster is just a manifestation of repressed childhood trauma, prescribes them laudanum, and locks them in an asylum.
Just to keep the secret safe.
That is next-level gaslighting. It turns the player's own cries for help against them. Then we have the Crimson Robes. Historically, they were forbidden Jesuit librarians archiving heretical truths right under the nose of the Inquisition.
And in the 1920s, they are hiding in plain sight within Vienna's prestigious academic institutions. They treat human history as a massive data set. purely to perfect their own summoning rituals.
And finally, the Crimson Cracked Branch.
These are usually your underdog allies or desperate quest givers. Originally, they were dissident court alchemists who realized the Crown's experiments were going to destroy the world, so they actively sabotaged them.
And now?
Now, they are a paranoid underground resistance operating out of safe houses in forgotten Baroque cellars, frantically trying to patch the weakening seals with whatever resources they have left.
It's an incredibly rich ecosystem for a GM. We have a city built on top of a dormant cosmic bomb, protected by a society that refuses to believe the bomb exists, and factions violently fighting over the detonator.
Absolutely.
But it's one thing to tell a player their 1920s psychoanalyst character is vulnerable. Gamers are notoriously min-maxers. They'll just try to shoot the monster with a Tommy gun. How does the game system actually stop them from doing that?
The mechanics enforce the horror beautifully. We can skip the basic stat blocks. Any GM listening knows how a basic D6 roll-under system works with strength, intellect, charisma, perception. But we need to focus on a unique mechanic called the burden of skepticism.
Okay, lay it on me.
When a character encounters the supernatural, they don't roll a bravery or sanity stat. They are forced to roll under their intellect.
Wait, let me challenge this. Because punishing a player for a critical success goes against literally every instinct in tabletop gaming.
I know, it sounds counterintuitive.
Right. If I roll a 1 on my intellect check, which is normally an amazing success, the rules say I actually get penalized. Doesn't that just make players frustrated?
Yeah.
How does the game keep them from rage quitting when their smartest characters are constantly failing?
It worked because it shifts the genre from pulp action to true psychological horror. If you roll a 1, your highly educated, rational 1920s mind goes into overdrive trying to explain away the cosmic horror standing in front of you.
Oh, I see. You suffer massive cognitive dissonance.
Exactly. Your character literally freezes in denial. Mechanically, you take a +1 difficulty modifier to all your actions for the rest of the scene. It forces the play to role-play the paralysis of logic. The smarter you are, the harder your worldview breaks.
Okay, when you frame it like that, I love it. You see a tentacle reach out of a sewer grate, and instead of pulling your gun and firing, your genius professor character just stands there calculating the refraction of light on swamp gas, completely paralyzed, until the tentacle wraps around their ankle.
Precisely. Your enlightened mind is your biggest liability, but players do need some way to fight back.
Right, how do they do that?
Through the Baroque liturgy or the relic resonance rule. If your character brandishes an authentic 17th century relic, say a heavy Baroque rosary or a Counter-Reformation prayer book, they gain a -1 modifier, which is a bonus to their sanity probes against entities.
So the ancient dogmatic belief system actively pushes back the dark.
Yes, but there is a brutal physical trade-off. Carrying the literal weight of the past slows you down. Holding that heavy relic gives you a +1 difficulty penalty to all physical strength checks.
Oh, wow. So you are safer from the cosmic rot in your mind, but you can barely swing a crowbar or force open a stuck door to escape.
It creates this constant tension at the table. Do I hold on to my modern rationality and risk going completely mad? Or do I embrace the heavy superstitions of the past and weaken myself in the physical world?
It's a brilliant dilemma. Let's bring all of these mechanics and lore pieces together by looking at the sample adventure provided in the guide, The Alchemist's Debt.
It serves as a perfect microcosm of how a game master should pace a session.
The hook blends the modern 1920s with the ancient past seamlessly. So the city is building a massive socialist public housing project, what the locals call a Gemeindebau over in the Leopoldstadt district. The excavation crew accidentally breaks through the modern dirt into a sealed brick Baroque cellar from the 1680s.
And the scene the GM gets to set here is incredibly eerie. The construction workers flee the site because several of their men just drop into a sudden, impossibly deep sleep and their skin starts turning a necrotic ash gray.
And the players are usually brought in by the Crimson Cracked Branch, right?
Exactly. Their objective is to get in there before the official city planners show up and accidentally unleash whatever is rotting in the dark.
Right out of the gate, the GM calls for a perception check, just to navigate the crumbling, unstable brick without collapsing the vault. And once they get inside, Act 2 begins, and the conflict really opens up.
Yeah, the players find the perfectly preserved remains of a court physician. This is a man who historically claimed to have cured the plague of 1679, but what he actually did was physically bind a fragment of the unbound flesh using those Baroque alchemical seals we discussed.
And crucially, he's got his journals on him. He's got the math. And the moment the players secure those journals, the factions descend.
The Golden Robes have intercepted the city excavation reports. They want those journals to create a geometry of control. They want to weaponize the dormant entity.
At the exact same time, the Black Robes arrive.
Yeah.
And they don't want the journals. They want to break the seals entirely.
Right. So the Black Robes start deploying street agitators up on the surface, inciting a massive labor riot so the psychic noise and chaos of the crowd will shatter the basement's magical wards.
So your players are caught in a massive pressure cooker. You have a literal riot happening above them, a cosmic horror waking up below them, and the Golden Robes breaking down the door.
And this is where the GM asks for an intellect check, modified by that brutal burden of skepticism, to decipher the alchemical formulas fast enough.
And if they roll a 1 here, they just freeze up staring at the impossible math while the door splinters open.
Exactly. The conflict inevitably spills out of the cellar and right into the inner city, launching Act 3, centering on the Pestol, the Plague Column on the Graben.
The imagery for this climax is stunning. The Black Robes are in the sewers beneath the column, trying to detonate alchemical explosives to shatter the city's primary dampening field.
The plaza is shrouded in an unnatural fog. Cultists are swarming the streets, and the pristine, holy marble of the Plague Column is literally weeping black, oily fluid.
A truly memorable tabletop adventure doesn't end with just rolling dice until a boss monster runs out of hit points.
No, it ends with a terrible choice. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the GM forces the players into one of 3 impossible resolutions. First is Surtur's path.
Right. The players fail, or they actively choose to let the Black Robes win. The column breaks, the entity is released, and the false rational reality of the district simply dissolves into the void.
The second option is the Imperial Seal. The players throw their lot in with the Golden Robes. They help bind the entity into a prototype rationality lamp.
Which means you save the city from immediate destruction, but you hand a devastating, mind-controlling psychic weapon directly to the corrupt elite. You effectively trade cosmic horror for authoritarian horror.
And the third option, the Forgotten Rite. The players side with the Crimson Cracked Branch. They use the Baroque liturgy to permanently anchor the entity back into the deep earth.
But to do it, the players have to sacrifice a permanent portion of their own sanity to rewrite the sealing ciphers. You save the world, but your characters lose their minds.
So what does this all mean for you when you sit behind the GM screen? It means Vienna Shadows requires you to emphasize the contrast.
You have to paint the 1920s surface as bright, logical, and obsessively clean, so that when the Baroque rot underneath bleeds through, the dissonance feels completely unnatural. The horror doesn't just come from the monsters, it comes from the realization that logic is a fragile shield.
Make your players feel the terrifying weight of their own intellect betraying them. The very act of trying to rationally understand this world is exactly what drives a character mad.
Make them realize that the superstitious peasants they read about in their university history books were actually the ones keeping humanity alive. The Enlightenment in this game failed because it tried to erase monsters by erasing the belief in them.
It leaves you with a thought that lingers long after you pack up your dice.
In our highly rational, digitally driven real world today, where absolutely everything is categorized, tracked, and data mined, what kind of modern blind spots are we creating for ourselves? What ancient truths or terrors might we be completely ignoring, just letting them multiply in the dark, simply because our modern algorithms and screens don't have the metrics to measure them?
It's a deeply unsettling question and exactly the kind of atmosphere you want to carry into your next session.
Until next time, keep peeling back the wallpaper. You never know what's breathing underneath.
This concludes today's episode. Don't forget to rate and subscribe. Until next time, Vienna Shadows, signing off.